Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into something, well, you interact with it every single day, probably.
Probably multiple times a day.
Yeah, probably multiple times even,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about ultra-processed foods.
Hmm.
And, you know, you sent over just a mountain of research on this, and some of it was really eye-opening.
It's a big topic.
It was a big topic, yeah, for
And
sure.
it's kind of scary, too,
It is a little bit, yeah.
when you start looking into it.
Yeah, like, for example, I had no idea that 73%
Oh, wow.
of the U.S. food supply is ultra-processed.
I know, that's a crazy stat, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It really makes you think about what we're actually putting in our bodies.
It really does, yeah. It's kind of wild.
And the thing is, most people don't even realize it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what they're eating.
Well, I think that's a great place to start then.
Okay.
Like, what exactly is ultra-processed food?
Right. Yeah, good point.
Because I think a lot of people hear that and think, okay, well, all food is processed in some way, right?
Right.
Even just like cooking something.
Right. It's not just about whether something comes in a package or not.
Yeah.
We're talking about foods that have gone through a ton of industrial processing.
Okay.
They have a lot of added ingredients like flavors, colors, preservatives.
So things you wouldn't like have in your pantry, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, think about those super brightly colored breakfast cereals.
Yeah.
Or those instant noodles, or those frozen meals.
Oh, yeah, the frozen meals that are like gourmet dinner in 10 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so tempting.
Oh, it is.
Especially like, when you've had a long day.
Oh my gosh, yes. Especially on those busy weeknights.
Totally.
It's just easy, you know?
Yeah.
But then it makes you wonder, like, what are we really trading for that convenience?
Right. Right. And that's where the research gets a little, well, kind of disturbing.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, studies are finding more and more links between ultra-processed foods and all kinds of health problems.
Like, what kind of health problems are we talking about here?
We're talking some serious stuff. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, even some types of cancer are being linked to these foods.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not just adults either.
Kids too.
Kids too, yeah.
Oh, wow.
One study found that kids who eat a lot of ultra-processed foods are 3 times more likely to develop prediabetes.
3 times?
Yeah, than kids who don't.
Wow, I mean, that's got to be concerning for parents.
Absolutely. It's a huge wake-up call.
Yeah, that's really eye-opening. And, it's interesting because you mentioned earlier that most people don't even really know
Right.
what these foods are.
Yeah.
So, like, how are we supposed to even make good choices if we don't know what to look for?
That's the problem. It's like you go to the grocery store, you're trying to be quick, make a decision.
You just want to get in and out.
Exactly. And there's just so many options, it's overwhelming.
It really is. It's hard to know what's what.
And studies show that only about 1 in 3 Americans can actually identify ultra-processed foods.
Wow, that's kind of shocking, honestly.
It is. It's like this hidden danger lurking in our food.
It is like that. It's kind of scary, actually.
It is. And, the food industry isn't making it any easier.
What do you mean?
Well, think about all the advances in food technology.
Okay.
I mean, on the one hand, that could be a good thing.
How so?
Well, we could use it to create healthier options.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Make food more sustainable.
Right.
But on the other hand, what often ends up happening is that this technology gets used to make ultra-processed foods even more appealing.
So, like, even more tempting.
Exactly. They're engineering these foods to be super tasty.
Right. And addictive.
Yeah, basically. But they're not necessarily healthy,
Right. It's like they're prioritizing shelf life and flavor
Exactly.
over actual nutrition.
And then you throw in the whole regulatory landscape,
Oh,
and it gets even more complicated.
in what way?
Well, the way the FDA handles food additives is pretty different from some other places.
Like where?
Well, like the European Union, for example.
Okay, what's the difference?
So in the U.S., the FDA uses a system called post-market enforcement.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Basically, they don't always rigorously test the safety of ingredients before they're used in food.
Oh, wow.
They kind of rely on monitoring the market, and then they take action if problems come up later.
So it's like a reactive approach
Yeah, exactly.
rather than a preventative one?
Right, whereas in the EU, they tend to be more precautionary.
So they require more evidence of safety up front.
Exactly.
That's a pretty big difference.
It is, and it kind of makes you wonder,
Yeah, about how safe some of these additives really are.
Right, exactly.
It seems like we're always playing catch up with these things, right?
Yeah, it can feel that way sometimes.
But it's not all bad news, though, right?
No, definitely not. There are people working hard to change things.
Okay, that's good to hear.
And that's where these community solutions are so inspiring.
Oh, tell me more about those. What are people doing?
Well, there are all these incredible initiatives popping up all over,
Okay.
focused on making healthy food more accessible.
Okay, yeah. I've heard a little about this. Tell me more.
So you've got things like community gardens
Okay.
in urban areas, bringing fresh produce right to those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then there are farmers markets being set up in food deserts.
For those who don't know, what's a food desert?
That's where people have limited access to affordable, healthy food.
Okay.
And then there are also educational programs
Okay.
teaching people how to cook healthy meals on a budget.
That's fantastic. I love that.
It's pretty
It
amazing.
really shows that, like, people are taking action, you know?
Really inspiring, right?
It is. It's like people coming together and saying, we want something better.
Exactly.
Okay, so to recap, ultra-processed foods, they're a big problem.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and they come with some serious risks.
But it's not hopeless.
No, that's what I was going to say. Like, there are things we can do,
Absolutely.
both individually and together.
We just need to be aware and make conscious choices.
Well said.
It's really about taking back control of our food system,
Yeah.
making sure everyone has access to good, nutritious food.
So we've given you a lot to think about today, but before we go,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
What steps can you take right now, today, to reduce your own reliance on these ultra-processed foods?
Right.
I mean, could you commit to cooking a few more meals at home each week?
Yeah, even just one more.
Even just one more, right? Start small.
Exactly. It all adds up.
Could you start reading those ingredient lists more carefully?
You'd be surprised what you find in some of those things.
Right, exactly. And maybe you could check out a local farmer's market.
Support local.
Support local, exactly. Try some fresh whole foods, you know.
Make it a fun adventure, too.
It can be, yeah. Make it an outing.
Exactly.
Every little change helps. Every little change matters.
Absolutely. It all makes a difference.
Okay, that's it for today.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.